Hello and welcome to Talk to Stu with me, Stu Magoo. Thank you for joining me for another one of my videos. This one isn't about a specific topic. This one is basically a follow-up to the live stream that I was doing on Tuesday evening that had to be abandoned due to the bad weather playing havoc with our broadcast. It did cause quite a few audio dropouts. So obviously the audio is kind of more important really than the actual visuals. You know exactly what I look like. You don't need to see my face really. It kind of helps a bit, but really the words are what's important. So I did hope to do another live stream on the Thursday evening to sort of replace that, but unfortunately that couldn't be done either. So I posted a little video on Thursday saying if you want to ask your questions in the comments, then I will put together a video on Sunday, which is what I'm doing right now, to answer those questions. So that's what this is all about. So for those who have not joined me before, welcome. And for those who have been here supporting me before now, thank you for your support. Really means the world to me with this, and hopefully I can help you navigate this complex world of health and social care and benefits and so on. That is the plan. Now, just to warn everyone as well, although when I do my live Q&As I don't have monetization and adverts switched on then, because that would just interrupt the flow and things, I have on this particular video, so it might get interrupted with adverts and so on here and there, but that's the nature of things. And also, if you are looking for sort of short, snappy answers on benefit questions, unfortunately there aren't any really. It's a very complicated process, and I am a bit of a waffler, which I make no apologies for. This is what I do. So if you want short and sweet, this isn't for you. You can of course skip through, you know, you've got those functions, so yeah, do that instead. So yeah, I've got all the questions lined up, but before we dive into those questions, the first thing I want to do is draw everyone's attention to a particular website, which I have to say I think is fantastic. So and you may find it useful too, but there's something on there which I hadn't spotted until last week, which I think could be very helpful for a lot of my viewers and will answer a lot of questions. So this is Disability Rights UK. It's a fantastic organisation from my point of view as a professional, because they provide really excellent resources for professionals. So years ago when I worked in information and advice and welfare support, we would on a yearly basis get what we would call the Bible from these guys, and it's absolutely fantastic. So the Disability Rights Handbook is what we would call our Bible, and it's a fantastic book. As you can see, it's not the cheapest, you know, but as a professional it's actually very reasonably priced from a professional's point of view. But this is a thick book with very teeny-weeny writing, and you know, it literally covers everything with all sorts of benefits. It's fantastic. And so you know, if you are a professional, I do recommend that book. They release an updated version every year. There's also an online version now, which is really good. That's not what I'm drawing your attention to today, however. Before I go on to what I am drawing your attention to today, I will also have quickly point out this here, which is the radar key. So for anybody who doesn't know this already, the radar key is a really useful thing if you are disabled and need to use disabled toilets quite often, when out and about, because quite often you'll find that they're locked. Well, they're locked to stop people who aren't disabled using them. And the idea is that you purchase yourself one of these. It's called a radar key, and it will fit all those locks. It's a universal key. You can buy it from lots of places, not just Disability Rights UK. You can get it from Amazon and things like that as well. But what I'm showing you today is the Personal Independence Payment Guide, which is on here. Now, you can purchase the book version, which is £7, which, considering what's in it, is a bit of a bargain. But it's also available as a free download, which is really good. So when you click on it here, you can, as I say, buy now and pay £7, which just covers the printing and so on, costs and all of that sort of thing. Or you can scroll to the bottom of the screen and you can download either a PDF or Word document version. PDF should work on most phones, tablets, computers, whatever you need. It might be that you need to download a PDF reader like Adobe Acrobat, but more often than not, if you're running Google Chrome or Samsung or the iPhone, I can't remember what they call, Safari or whatever it is, it will have a PDF reader built into it, and then that will download this guide. And it's a very detailed guide, but it's also written quite nicely. It's easy to read. It's not too complicated. So if you need a paper version of things or electronic version of things so that you can have something to reference, then this is definitely worth a look. It's a fantastic guide. Now, obviously, what you'll probably also want to do is have a look a bit deeper on my channel and find my how to claim personal independence payment videos on there. I talk you through step by step how to claim personal independence payment and all the things to look out for with that. So if you want me talking you through it, that's a good way to go. But it's also really good to have this book as well, or a copy of it. So yeah, look out for that. Now, that's not just the only thing on there that's useful. There's also a book on winning your benefit appeal, what you need to know, what you need to know about financial help for families. There's a book on fuel rights, all sorts of things. So this is a really good website in that way. On top of that, there is also on here a lot of information about where to find support, and they also have a helpline as well. So it's really useful just generally for this kind of thing. There's also a case law archive on here, so some of the questions I get are quite often about case law. There's a benefit calculator too, so you can click on that and it will take you through to the Turn to Us benefits calculator, which I have told people about quite a few times on my videos. So that can tell you what it is that you need to know. So really useful website just generally there for people in this situation. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get on to the questions. So let's go to our first question, which is from Stephen Gallagher, who's written quite a lovely comment here along with his question. So thank you for that. That's very kind. So let's just go to the question element of it. I've recently become a pensioner, and having become one, I've since found that my ESA benefit would cease automatically. This shocked me as my disabilities are still prevalent, and I find it incomprehensible that by reaching a certain age, i.e. pensionable, I'd be penalised. I'm now receiving the basic state pension and both low rate mobility and care components, which is considerably less income than I had pre-pensionable age. Without sounding like I'm trying to exploit the benefit system, you don't to me, is there any other benefits that you know of that I can claim for? Attendance allowance, for example. So, first of all, it's not exploiting the benefit system to find out what it is that you should be entitled to. That's the mainstream media trying to make everybody think that, having to claim benefits makes you a scrounger. It does not. On top of that, if you are of pensionable age, I'm guessing you're probably going to have worked and paid taxes, and indeed we all pay tax on every single thing we buy. And part of also that system is we all pay national insurance as well. So, this is what it's for. So it's not trying to exploit the benefit system by just asking about what you may or may not be entitled to. Yeah, don't worry about that. That's absolutely fine. So just to get into this is a sort of two-stage question, really. So the first element of it is that you have moved from ESA over to the state pension. So this is quite useful because this question also got asked, or a similar question got asked the other day, and I was a bit muddled in my response, so it gives me an opportunity to sort of correct that a little bit as well. So how it works is this with the benefit system. There's sort of two general categories that benefits come into. The one category is essentially income benefits. Income is what we need to survive day to day, and so income we would normally get from working. So income benefits are things like state pension, universal credit, working tax credits, previously job seekers allowance, employment support allowance, which at the moment are referred to as legacy benefits, and things like that. And also housing benefit and council tax support was also in that. Now, income benefits, generally speaking, tend to be means tested, though not always. Some of them are based on contributions, or some of them are based on what you're doing, like carers allowance. So in that situation, if you're receiving carers allowance, it's because you're caring for somebody and therefore not able to work. So you are essentially working, you're just doing that as a carer, sort of thing. So these are all income benefits, and the general rule of thumb is that you can only really have one income benefit at a time. So if you are under pensionable age, generally speaking now, you would be on universal credit, which would also include housing benefit and council tax support. That's all rolled into that. And if you were out of work because you were sick or disabled or whatever reason, then again that comes under universal credit now, though previously and many people are still on ESA as they're still transitioning people. So when you reach pensionable age, that for everyone comes to an end and you move on to your state pension. So there was a question asked about this the other day, about that transition from employment support allowance over onto the state pension. So at the time I was a bit foggy due to fibromyalgia flare-up and all sorts of things going on. So my answer to that question, I was a bit vague, and I thought I was sure pension credit kicks in before then, because if your employment support allowance is coming to an end before your pension kicks in, which it often does for most people, pension credit you can start claiming a few months ahead, so about 4 months ahead, which somebody commented, so thank you for that comment there. So for about 4 months ahead you can claim pension credit, and then when your pension kicks in, that will will take over and your pension credit will be adjusted down to match. So that's worth knowing. Pension credit is similar to universal credit and all of those things in that it is means tested. So we'll look at what income you have. If you've got any other income coming in, such as private pensions or work pensions, things like that, it will take all that into account. So generally speaking, and it's the same for everybody, once you get to that age, these income benefits cease and these income benefits start. Simple as that. And yes, the state pension is a benefit. It does trigger a lot of people when I say that, but it is. That's the whole thing. That what's actually known as social security payments, and that's why it was all set up, because it's social security, but the name was changed to benefits so that it makes people think that it's some sort of free handout from the government. It's not. It's us as a democratic people that have said we don't want the poorest and the most vulnerable to fall through the gaps, and that includes elderly people. So we want to make sure that there's a state pension that everybody gets so that nobody falls through the gap, and by working you pay your national insurance contributions, and that leads to you getting your state pension at the end of the day. So yes, so there we go. And there's also pension credit, like I say. So that can top you up if for some reason you weren't able to make the national insurance contributions, which might be due to the fact that you had ill health or whatever. So there we go. That's that element of it. Now, the second element of it is, is there anything else that you could claim for, such as attendance allowance, for example? Attendance allowance is a disability benefit. So this is the second sort of category of benefits, disability benefit. Now, generally speaking, anybody who is on a disability benefit, such as personal independence payment, before they reach retirement will stay on that benefit after retirement. You won't be able to get personal independence payment and attendance allowance. You can get one or the other. I would not recommend, if you are on personal independence payment, giving that up and then applying for attendance allowance. I would not recommend this, because you will get less on attendance allowance than you currently are. So in this, you said that you're on the lower rate mobility and low rate care component. With attendance allowance, you only get the care component. You don't get a mobility component. The mobility component is not an element of it. Now, what's important to remember with this is if you have the lower rate of mobility and you pass pensionable age, you will not be able to upgrade the lower rate of mobility. You won't be able to upgrade that to the higher rate of mobility. The reason being is that everybody over pensionable age does not get a mobility component at all. There's no mobility for people, which, if you think about it, pretty much everybody over pensionable age will have some sort of mobility issue at some point if you live long enough. Just bones and things wear out as we get older. So we all end up, struggling to get in and out of a chair and all that sort of thing. So, you can kind of see that the cost of that would spiral quite quickly. I'm not saying that's the reason, but nobody over that age will get the mobility component. So if you are on PIP, then you won't, as I say, be able to upgrade that, but you will be able to upgrade your care component. So when it comes to your PIP review, you will be able to upgrade the care components to the higher rate if you are eligible for that. And the way attendance allowance and PIP are assessed in terms of the higher and lower rate of the care component is completely different. So it's apples and oranges, but nonetheless you still have that ability to potentially upgrade with PIP on the care component. So yes, and as you get older, you're more likely to have more extended awards between reviews when it comes to PIP. So you might get the 5-year or the 10-year, or even lifetime, possibly, things before you have your PIP review. Generally speaking, past the age of pensionable age, health conditions tend to be more long-term, though obviously a lot more you can recover from. So that's about the size of it for that question. Quite a long answer, as they always are with me, but it is a complex question. So thank you for that, Stephen. Hope that one helps. And yeah, there we go. So the next question is from Emni Borgo, 8979. Hi Stu, was just wondering what the best way to go about the recent judgment. I know DWP are asking people to call them if they think they're affected, but I've read that it may not be the best way because they fob you off. I also read that a few people have been contacted by DWP already and have received a payment. I know in my case I should have scored the 2 additional points for communication and needing prompting. The assessor has even written down that she agrees I need help, and the evidence I supplied supported this. This is a tricky one. Yeah, so you should contact the DWP for certain, but what I would recommend in all of these things, it's always my recommendation, is seek out that one-to-one support. As always, I'll post links in the comments. Like I said earlier in the video, Disability Rights UK might be a good place to start. Give their helpline a call and go through things with them. See what it is that you need to do. It might be that there are templates available that would help you do this. Certainly, it might be that you might need to have a review. Going through a review at the moment is quite difficult, but if the evidence is there, yes, you should get supported with that, so you don't get fobbed off. I would recommend as well always doing this in writing rather than over the phone as much as possible, partly because then you've literally got a paper trail, but also it just helps because you can set everything out very clearly and also submit evidence and things like that if you need to. That would certainly be the way that I would go, but definitely get one-to-one support and advice on that one. Some people may have been contacted already and received payment, but generally speaking with the DWP they tend to be a bit sporadic about how they do this and in what areas and when, and as I've mentioned in previous videos, they have a bit of an issue with staffing at the moment for a lot of these things, so it might be that they will eventually get round to you, but there will be no idea of when that will be. Okay, so sorry it's not a more detailed answer on that one. So Martin Phipps says, hi, I've recently had a telephone assessment for PIP by Capita. I asked if I could have the conversation recorded before the start of the assessment. The lady said yes. At the end she explained that you would be getting a link via email. I waited a few days but no email. Rang up Capita, they said give it 2 weeks and they'll send a hard copy. After 2 weeks nothing came via post or email, so I rang again, only to be told that there is not a recording, so now I've got no evidence. Okay, so Duke of Newt came in with a fairly good answer here, you know, which is good. Yeah, so yeah, that's a good answer from Duke of Nuke there. But what I would say with this is with the telephone recordings, you know, you can record it yourself. You can record it yourself, but it may well be that gets challenged at tribunal in terms of how that recording was done. It might be that, you know, you've got somebody who videos it while you're doing that so they can see it's a genuine thing that's going on. It could be that you use an app on your phone like Duke suggests. It could be that you use a separate recording device to record that, and just make them aware that you are recording it at the start of the call, and say, well, can you record it please, but also be aware that I am also recording it. That could be quite good, because then if you've got both recordings, you can demonstrate that they are indeed correct. I wouldn't fully accept that they've lost the recording just yet, though, because quite often what happens, and this is the case in all offices, is things go missing because people aren't sure which folder a certain thing was put in at what time and things like that. What I would suggest is you might try with this is submitting a subject access request. So if you go to the ICO website, you can get a subject access request template, which is basically a letter or an email that you can send through to them requesting access to your data, anything that's about you, anything that personally identifies you, and so on and so forth. And you can specify, and you should specify in that, what types of data you want. So you could literally request everything relating to your PIP, and that includes audio, video, written emails, all sorts of things. And you can submit that. It can be quite telling when you get it, and you have to specify what the best format for you to receive that is. Ideally, PIP, PDF, and MP3s would be fine, but some people prefer to have paper, or maybe a USB stick with everything on sent to them, whatever it is. They have to respond within 28 days and send you everything that they have on file. Now, this is quite good, because then generally a data protection officer within the organisation who will be assigned with this task will get in there and will bring together all of that information into one package to pass it on to you. And usually, or not usually, but often, somebody will dig up things that previously were thought lost, because they'll look in different places. So it might be, if that recording is still in existence, that it was there. Of course, it might be that that recording was never made at the time, but it's important to do that. One thing that's important to remember, though, if you are getting to the point where you have to present this in appeal, the fact that you requested a recording but the recording doesn't exist is going to work more in your favour than it is in theirs, because at the end of the day they won't be able to evidence what they're saying. Now, you might say, well, I can't evidence what I'm saying as well, but on the balance of probabilities, if you requested a thing and they didn't do it, they made an error, on the balance of probabilities, the tribunal is going to assume that they made further errors as well. Okay, so that actually would work in your favour in an appeal, that they didn't do that when that was specifically requested, particularly if they're then saying things which you can demonstrate in other ways using other evidence aren't true. So, like I say, it could actually work in your favour that they haven't done that. They are supposed to be recording telephone interviews as standard now. That's my understanding of it. So it shouldn't be that you even need to ask. They should just be being recorded. Anyway, Muppet Show says, "Hi Stu, I've only received a letter just to say get ready to move tax and child credits, but not received anything on ESA, which I'm on. Once I receive the migration letter, do I just move child tax credits only as a couple? If moving from ESA support group, will the payment be the same or less or more? My ESA is contribution based." Yes, that might explain it. Well, your contribution ESA will come to an end at some point anyway, at the end of the contribution thing. You will have to move as soon as the migration letter comes through. The contribution ESA will continue until you are told to move as well. So all of that will have to, you'll have to move on to universal credit. You must respond to that migration letter within the timescale that they say in that letter, which is generally speaking 28 days. You have to start it within 28 days, otherwise you will lose your transitional protection. So I've done a video on this, which is my FAQ, so I'm not going to go into this in too much detail right now. Please do go and have a look at my FAQs videos on my channel. Video number 2, I think, is about moving from ESA to universal credit. Also covers contribution, ESA, and transitional protection, what that means for you and how that will work out. So please go and have a look at that one. Rob McCallan. So, I know you said it's not unusual for people to get PIP review forms several months before their claims expire. However, mine doesn't expire until next year, even though they didn't bother to let me know. I've asked them to send me a letter confirming that, as not knowing where I stand really bugs me. Fair enough. Is this normal? I.e., can they just decide to put people through the review process whenever they wish to? If so, it feels somewhat broken, and it's definitely not good for people's mental health. Well, you're quite right there, Rob. Yeah, it's good that you've asked them to send you a letter. So, yeah, generally speaking, it's 6 months ahead of when the claim expires that a person gets the review form sent through. However, things have changed a little bit with the review forms, which I've explained in other videos, where the review forms are a little bit easier to fill in now. You just have to, you get smaller sections and you can just write in there if nothing has changed for you, that your conditions are still the same. Don't leave any sections blank. Always put something in each section. I always say that, and I'm sure Rob's heard me say that before, so I'm not telling Rob, I'm telling everybody that. But yes, it might be that they're sending these things 12 months ahead, generally due to the huge backlogs that there are with processing the reviews at the moment. And again, there's that staffing issue, not just at the DWP itself, but also with organisations like Capita and so on. So they're trying to get ahead of the game and move things forward a bit. It also is relative to how long your reward was, as to how they're assessing this. So if you're on a 5-year one, being asked to review it a year ahead is different to somebody who's on a 3-month or a 3-year or a 12-month review, those kind of things. So we know that review processes are generally, for a lot of people, taking between 12 to 18 months to go through anyway. But what the DWP are doing is continuing people's payments at the same rate up until that decision is made, and people are not having to pay things back. Yes, it is definitely a broken system. Yes, it's definitely not good for people's mental health. They can pretty much do what they like. I've had other questions where people have said, how can this be legal? Well, they literally make the laws. That's what the government do. So if they find a law doesn't suit them, they just rewrite it, and that can only be challenged in a court in case law decisions. So it is very tricky. Quite often there's been a lot of cases when using the human rights legislation that the EU has, and funny that the Conservative government would want to get us away from the EU Court of Human Rights. Can't think why they'd want to do that. So yeah, not the best answer again, sorry. John Hughes. Hello Stu, do you have information regarding the transition payment on Universal Credit? I saw a news item on RightsNet in early December. Good website. It mentioned that peers were unhappy that it's taken the government over 2 years from a court case to resolve this. The implication from reading this is they have to bring the level up and make the underpayment. Well, that is my understanding as well, and I think they're doing everything they can to not do that. Pressure is being applied in Parliament. I don't think there's any particular resolution to that right now, and we're not seeing any people getting paid in droves in big numbers. Presently, it might be that it gets addressed. I mean, it was certainly February 23 that was all pretty much done and dusted when they lost their appeal. The DWP lost their appeal on this particular issue, and they dragged their feet since then, and they will drag them as long as they possibly can, based on previous experience. Of course, I might be wrong, and I hope I am. Hi, Stu. Cheekster. Hi, Stu. A question about when payments will start for certain benefits. Universal credit is 5 weeks, yet ESA UC50 form is 3 months from the date of application, even though it's directly related to a UC application. Is there a good reason for this? Do you know? Seems crazy to receive UC for nearly 2 months, yet not for ESA. How long is the period for PIP? Do they backdate your first payment to the date of your application after approving it? So yes, they do. Just in answer to that last part of the question, yes. So yeah, universal credit is 5 weeks. The UC50 form takes 3 months. Sometimes longer. It can take 6 to 9 months. I've known that happen quite often. And yeah, it doesn't. Is there a good reason for this? Not really. The only real reason, the idea of universal credit is it was supposed to bring all of the benefits under one roof, one payment, but that's not practically happened because the departments that assess those things are still quite separate. They're quite often in different parts of the country. On top of that, we also have private sector companies such as Capita, Maximus, delivering the face-to-face assessments for the UC50. So there is also the turnaround that needs to happen between have that form being filled in, received by the DWP, processed there, then sent through to Capita or Maximus or whoever. And then, of course, then that has to go on the waiting list to get somebody assigned for that person to then either invite you in person to do a face-to-face or do a telephone or video call. And then, of course, that depends on whether somebody has ongoing health issues that might prevent them from doing that on the day, and then it gets set back, or that might also be the assessor might have a health problem on the day. There's lots of reasons why that could be set back, and so that then has a knock-on effect to the next people and so on and so forth. So generally speaking, yes, it is going to be much longer because there's so many different things that this has to go through before it gets to you. So 3 months is kind of being hopeful, I would say. I've known somebody recently that I've supported this with. It's got to be 6 months at least before they actually had their assessment. I think it was in the summer, and then they had their assessment just before Christmas, and I think they had their decision just after Christmas. So it did take absolutely ages, more than it should have. So yeah, it's still going on. Just to be aware, I don't actually support people a lot, but I do occasionally do little bits for people. How long is the period for PIP? Well, PIP's supposed to be 6 months until you get your final decision, so that doesn't include the mandatory reconsideration and the appeal. If you add those in, then it could take 12 months to 18 months to get a decision, and quite a lot of people have to go through mandatory reconsideration and appeal. I'd argue the majority. So, yeah, get support with that process as much as possible. They do backdate it to your first payment, as I say. Just be aware that you might also have to go through mandatory reconsideration and appeal with that. So, what else? There was another question that was asked. Let's have a little bit of Coke to keep me going. Coca-Cola or other cola brands are available. So let's try and get there. Where is it? I saw the... here we go. Fiona Whitmore, do you have any advice? I have to send in my review, PIP. Not sure what to put in, where to start. Would you send all the info you submitted the first time or just answer the questions asked? Many thanks and much appreciation for all your videos and help. I'd always send any new evidence that you've got. You don't need to send any old evidence because they've got all that. And as I said previously, you should answer the questions. If things have got worse or you've got more challenges in areas, then put in that detail. But if you if things are the same, just put that they're the same as they were before. Don't leave any spaces blank. And yeah, so yeah, and again, also download that book I mentioned earlier and get one-to-one support if you can. So yes, Star Smiley a couple of days ago posted that they were supporting their husband, and they were quite worried about how that was going to go, and the appeal had been quite stressful for them. And then a couple of days later happily reported that the appeal had been successful for them, and the husband was awarded 23 points, which is good. How is this legal? Well, like I said earlier, it's been a tough, very long journey, but worth doing. What's happening with the outsourced assessment companies is criminal. It is. Best of luck and support to all those people going through this. Thank you, Star Smiley. Yes. It's a difficult thing to go through. I'm just checking through. It looks like we've done all the questions for today, which is cool. Yeah, we've done that one. Am I entitled to... Oh, here's a good one, quick one. I have glaucoma and an agent from Universal Credit told me to check if I'm entitled to PIP. That will not affect the UC payments. I don't know how to do it. Okay, so hopefully, Alex Raccoon, you have picked up from what I've been saying already that try and get support with this. Glaucoma itself doesn't automatically qualify you for PIP. One of my FAQ videos goes into this question in detail as to what conditions qualify a person for PIP or not. And the short answer is conditions don't get you PIP. It's how those conditions affect you. But again, my advice is always get one-to-one support with this. For you, if it's glaucoma, I'd say get in touch with the RNIB. Also look locally. There's probably a local sight loss charity that might be able to support you with that. Also get in touch with social services, because social services generally have some form of sensory impairment team that are able to support people with this. Even if they can't support you with this, quite often they can't, they would be able to tell you if there are any ECLOs in your area that would be able to go through this sort of thing with you, or any sight loss charities that might provide services or advice and guidance on that. And also just give the RNIB a call to see if that happens. Someone else asked a question, I saw it earlier, which was about personal budgets. How do you get a personal budget? For for getting personal budgets and being assessed for those, you have to get in touch with your local authority social services team, basically. In Worcestershire, we have like an assessment centre, so you have to call them up, and they start the process of you having care needs assessment, and then after that's been done, you have a financial assessment, and then they decide whether they make payments directly to your care provider or whether they give you a personal budget and then you manage that yourself. That can be quite tricky to do. A lot of organisations out there can give you some advice on that, and again, Disability Rights UK are pretty good that way. Here's a good comment from David Thomas. Something that I am quite looking into at the moment is this whole looking at people's bank accounts. I mean, it is just honestly how that's even vaguely justifiable, I don't know. David Thomas says, I've just received a call from the Enrich Review team regarding my universal credit. I previously submitted my bank statements on their request, and they questioned why I obscured all the transactions. I said it contravened GDPR, which he tried to say it didn't. I then quoted the Clause 34 bill, and he backed down. Do your research such as these vlogs and challenge them. Yep. Oh, there it is, Julia. You mentioned personal budgets. How do I get one? Must have seen it in the bottom of my eye. Yeah, it doesn't quite contravene GDPR, I will say that. GDPR was changed quite significantly in certain areas, particularly around the government, when we left the EU. So that was the UK GDPR came out in 2021. And one of the elements in that is UK governments can access data on a person as they see fit. It's up to them. If they want to, they can. That they don't need your consent. They don't need your consent now to sell your data to American health insurance companies. Can't imagine why we left the EU. Or what benefit it would have been to the Conservatives that wanted us to go. But anyway, I'm not going to get political. But nonetheless, I'm not judging anybody for voting. We all voted for different reasons on that particular point. But there are some fringe benefits for the government on this. Certainly, GDPR is one of them, where they don't need your consent to do that, and that's partly how they've been able to push this change through, where they can access people's bank accounts. But the Clause 34 side of things is good. So yeah, I'll do a video on that soon, I think. So yeah, I think that is it's about it for today. That's just probably getting on near an hour now anyway, and most people will have tuned out, and I'm hungry and want to get me dinner. So thanks to everybody for watching. We'll be back again with the Q&A session at the start of next month, then I'll be popping a couple of new videos out during the month as well. So the next one is going to be on the 6th of February, which will be great. Finally, before I go, let's just look at one final thing, if I can get it up on the screen. So, on that particular point, organise.network, action at organise.network are running a petition to prevent the DWP from scrutinising disabled people's bank accounts. So I'll pop a link to that in the description for this video, so do click on and sign that, and we'll see where we get with that. hopefully, I mean, it's had over 60,000 signatures already, so if we can get it over 100,000, then it'll have to be debated in Parliament. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yes, in the meantime, everybody stay safe and stay well and stay warm, and do your best to keep battling through. Just remember there is always an end point that you can get to. It might seem like you're going through hell. I always say this. It might seem like you're going through hell, but the alternative is worse. So please just keep going. Okay, you will get to the other side. There will be an end to it. But just, stay with us and keep fighting. And hope you're all looking after yourselves and all of that. And thank you to everybody for supporting my channel. And if you have watched this entire thing, thank you for that as well. Hope you've found it of benefit. And yeah, we'll see you all again soon. So do take care out there. And yeah, bye for now.